So rumour has it that right now in the night sky there is a comet, and that's a good thing because that's usually where you'd expect to find a comet. If it was on the ground it'd be a cause for concern, but fortunately it's still in the sky, so fingers crossed it stays there. The comet's name is A3, but it also has a sort of scientific-y name that I can't pronounce, but it's given me an idea, and that's to head out to Spain Point, somewhere that I would normally go to do long exposure seascape photography, and just take a slightly different kind of photograph. I have a scene and a subject in mind that I've never really photographed, but it's always been there needing the right moment, and I think tonight a scene, a subject, and the comet in the background I think would work really quite well. And then I have chance to play with this monstrosity as well. This is a 400mm f5.6 lens that I bought off eBay around a year ago and never really used. I cleaned it up, it had some fungus inside, but it'll give an 800mm full frame equivalent field of view, which will get us really punched in, and I'm hoping that if I'm able to take a stack of photographs that I can come home, do some magic on Photoshop with them, and hopefully end up with a really quite nice and detailed photograph of a comet. Again, I live in the UK, and a lot really kind of depends on the weather. So I've arrived at Spain Point, and fortunately the weather app's rung true and we've got a nice clear view towards the west. Problem I've got now is, well, finding the comet. The sun's just dropped below the horizon, and everything I've seen online suggested that just as the sun's setting is about the best time to see it, so I'm hoping over the next hour or so we're really going to be able to see a comet. But first of all, I need to find it. So let's find it. Alright, so I've got the trusty Starwalk, I think. I'm using a different app, the one that I normally use. They've got a bit stingy and you have to pay for things. This one I can overlay for free. So I can see, there we go, right in the night sky, there it is. If I turn less AR off, what does that do? Okay. So we need to zoom in. So it is roughly under that power cable there, which means it's going to come down. Can you speed time up? I don't know. Well, at least I know where to look. So if I get the camera pointing in that direction now, hopefully there'll be a comet in it. All right, so 10-15 minutes or so has passed. The sky is still pretty dark and it's still a little bit too bright to be doing this sort of long exposures to get this comet with, but the sky is getting darker and darker and darker all of the time. And looking on the AR thing, though, the comet's just dripping down now below the power lines, which is good because I kind of want to use this, I don't know what you call it, this pylon behind me with the telephone wires, electricity wires. I kind of want to use that as the subject. So it's a good thing really that the comet is dropping below it. Just need to hurry up and get a little bit darker now. It's a shame it's off to the west. If it was off to the east, life would be a little bit simpler, but hey ho, such is the way it goes with photography. So as the light is dropping and dropping and dropping, I thought now would be a good time just to show you the composition that I've got in mind. So we've got the telegraph pole on the left-hand rule of thirds point here. We've got the horizon and a little bit of the River Humber just on the bottom rule of thirds point, and we've got all of the power lines leading up in this direction. I'm kind of hoping that the comet is at some point going to end up around this rule of thirds point here, just sort of balancing out the composition. You can see on the back of the camera there's still a very pronounced orange glow from sunset, so I'm kind of hoping that disappears fairly quickly so we can start maybe being able to see something. Still not able to see anything with the eye, and it's still a little bit too bright to see anything on the camera. If I get down to a reasonable aperture, f5, we're still at around a 40th of a second. I've just realised for some unbeknown reason my aperture, so my ISO is around 2000. We don't want the ISO around 2000, I'd like the ISO around 200. So with that being said, let's adjust shutter speeds now. 1/4 of a second. Let's just see if anything pops up on this test shot. Let's zoom in and have a look around. It should be somewhere in the sky over here. Nothing resembling a comet just yet. Maybe a little bit too bright, but at least we've fixed the ISO problem, so let's just wait another 10-15 minutes and I'll catch up with you again, and hopefully things are a little bit darker. Oh man, this wait is absolutely killing me. We can just see that the comet now is just starting to drop below where the power lines are on the AR. Still not visible to the naked eye just yet, but there are some stars just starting to appear in the night sky. I'm hoping it's not going to be too long now. This wait is absolutely killing me. I am the least patient person that I know. Hopefully it's not going to be too much longer. Alright, so excuse my shaky handiwork here, but that blob right in the middle of the screen, that's the comet that we're hoping to get. Now I'm down at 10 seconds and it's still in what I would call a brighter part of the sky, but you can see the tail is now starting to become visible. So once again, just a little bit more time, we'll be able to start taking some photos, but I'm really enthused to see that it is actually there and it is actually visible in the composition that I came out to take. I must be the absolute smartest person that I know. It's now dark, you can see the comet in the test shots really clearly, including the tail, and what's blowing over? A band of cloud. Which means I now have to wait for the cloud to blow across. The comet's going to get lower in the sky, which means I'm going to have to recompose. It's a little bit frustrating. Not the end of the world frustrating. I have some test shots with comet in there, but not as clear as I would like them. But yeah. Still frustrating all of the same. This is just photography, I guess. It looks as though the band of cloud is fairly thin and it's moving quite quickly, so it shouldn't be stifling things for too long. But while it's there, it's a little bit annoying, and I was just starting to get into the swing of things, figuring out some settings, shutter speeds to stop things trailing, and all sorts of things like that. But hey, I guess this is just how it goes. Alright, so now the cloud has moved past, I'm able to show you this, and this is the comet on the back of the camera. I've thrown the Olympus 40-150 on, which is giving a 300mm focal length, but you can really see there is some comet right in the middle of this screen. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking a series of frames, so I'm going to take 10 of them, one after another. This will be the 40th frame at the end of this batch that I've taken. And the idea here is to stack these in Lightroom, creating a smart object and using the stack mode median or mean, depending on which looks the best. And that will give us a really nice photograph of this comet punched in. Now that bank of cloud has moved off, as soon as this batch of photos is taken, I'm going to throw the wider lens back on, and we're going to try and get a sort of landscapey photo now of this comet in the landscape before it drops too far down into the light pollution. But I'm really excited now to be able to just show this comet on the back of the screen with a longer focal length, and hopefully as soon as this bunch of photos is taken, I will be able to show you a really nice photograph of this comet. Okay, so I've now finally taken a landscapey photo with this comet. Unfortunately, in the time it took for the cloud to disappear, it's kind of dropped down into a little bit of light pollution, so I'm probably going to show you two images. One of the photographs is going to have a bit of cloud in it when it was still quite high in the sky, and the second photograph is from just now. So we've got just a little bit of fun. So I'm going to move around a little bit further, and I'm hopefully going to try and frame this comet now using the telegraph pole and some of the cables, just for a bit of fun and just see what it can create. So let's just move on, take a third photograph and see how it turns out. Well, I tried, and the comet's now dropped down so far into the light pollution, it's very barely visible. I'll show you the photograph anyway, but it didn't really turn out how I imagined it in my brain. But hey, that's the way it goes, and hopefully I've at least got a photograph of the comet of the century this evening. So thank you very much for watching tonight's video. If you did enjoy it, please do give it a thumbs up. It really does help the video, and it brings new viewers to see my content. And if you liked it a bit more than that, you can always press the subscribe button below me, and you'll see more Micro Four Thirds nonsense every single week. So until the next time, I'm going to love you and leave you and say peace and goodbye.